producing near-death experience and helping the body survive strokes and other cytotoxicity episodes, other events of cellular poisoning. So this set of molecules are very, very exciting. But it is the 8 cycles molecule that is perhaps quite important in terms of hadronic mechanics and our relation between the hadronic horizon and the so-called projected world we see today. It is now suspected in hadronic mechanics that we're built out of a completely different materia than we had modeled ourselves on. When we take a scanning electron microscope and look at our body, that's dead. We're looking at something that's been frozen. The living dynamic system is not catalogued and could never be modeled until hadronic mechanics began to make the mathematics and symmetry that made that possible. Also to describe this unique matter that had been made, this magnicular matter that can be used as fuel, as gas, injected into cars, and has been the world over, has been demonstrated all across America, which should not be possible according to quantum mechanics. The superconducting Cooper pairs cannot even be described by quantum mechanics properly. So the new configurations that are now appearing are contributing to the strong implications that we're made out of not magnecular matter, but the DNA, the living DNA, is in a hypermagnecular state. That is really a hyperdimensional state. It requires the most complex mathematics. We don't have powerful enough computers yet to apply the hypermathematics of hyperrelativity in simple prokaryote systems, the most simplest systems, living systems. Hopefully in the next 20 years there will be contributions in this field, especially hadronic computation, and there are very exciting fields in that direction. The use of these sacred plants, I feel ever more so that it is the intelligence behind the molecules, and that's what hadronic mechanics now implies, that there is an intelligence, and there's an order behind molecules. There is something that unifies the atoms that is through the whole universe, and extra dimensions, past, present, and future. That's immense. That's showing that there is a hyper-intelligence that is one with the whole building of the universe in these molecules. That's the guru. That's the shaman. That's the teacher. That's what we feel the most important in these molecules. It is sad to see that the East has come to the West, and that the sacred arcanum potions, the panaceas, have become handed out by the guru, shaman. It is the essence of the experience itself that's unique for everybody. I think that is the message of our time, that each person learns through their own individual somogenesis or apotheosis through these molecules, that there is from the heart of every atom by these molecules, and it's that we should focus on. We're also specifically interested, and we've been working for years, since '92, on Soma from the Rig Veda. And since Soma, and we have shown 6 years ago in our book, The Soma Conspiracy, there's great evidence showing that King Soma, Soma Raja, is the Pagunum harmala plant, which is ayahuasca's direct brother, really. It's got the harmaline, it's got the pinaline, which ayahuasca doesn't have, it's got the harmine. And has a long tradition of use in Persia, in Egypt, and in folk medicine, as well as the Greek mysteries. So Soma Raja is quite clear. There's 107 other plants, and it's the admixtures of plants that's very interesting. What's also intriguing, after the Rig Veda, you've got the Rasa texts, the Rasana, the Rasayana of Agastya and Boganatar. You've got then the Buddhist Rasa Ratnakara, all dealing with Soma rasa or soma essence, which is the essence of plants, the molecular distillation, the molecule no longer being a dead crystal but being a multidimensional entity. And this is how it is described in the Vedas. What is intriguing then in the Agastya Smita is that the Agastya Smita, apart from describing how to build a battery, and hundreds of batteries have been found in the Sarasvati Valley culture, as well as gold and silver, and distilleries of 70+% alcohol, thousands of years before the Greeks, where they added a cassia tree, and that's in the literature. They added the soma plants, and they added specific metals, platinum group elements. And then Agastya, described in the Agastya Smita, something that sounds like a hadronic reactor, something that causes these different molecules to become macromolecular, which sounds very similar to the magnicals. Magnicals are healing medicines. Now, Professor Johansson, becoming aware of our work with soma, ayahuasca soma is essentially the same. We're talking about the same experience, perhaps the intelligence in the soma plant. If you just take ayahuasca without the chakruna or jograponga, just ayahuasca, and you just take soma without a DMT admixture, they're very, very similar, except that the intelligence perhaps behind soma is more of a male, and there's definitely a female in ayahuasca. I think it's the nature of how they grow in nature. The molecules are identical. Another thing we'd like to speak about and perhaps contribute to this Congress, before getting into shamanism, as some of you know, as a 15-year-old, we had a near-death experience, and basically that near-death experience catapulted us into a completely new life. We came back transfigured, so to speak. It utterly changed our life. And for 7 years, we were tripping on our own psychedelics, to put it bluntly. So we had extreme altered states, but they weren't out of control. We could be a human being. But every night we could travel out of our body, we could have these shamanic voyages, riding different waves, meeting extraterrestrials and such things. Along with this also came UFO sightings. Now, this is where we touch certain buttons. It's extremely funny to see that when you go to the academic side of ufology, like the disclosureproject.org by Dr. Stephen Greer, which has 480 plus military officers having been involved in flying saucer research in clandestine projects of the US military-industrial complex, that they won't touch the psychedelic subject, because this is far out. And then you go to the psychedelic researchers, and they won't touch UFOs, because this is far out. But these two things must be looked at together. I'm heartened to see that Dr. Strassman is doing this because of his DMT studies, and he was dragged in because some of his patients experienced full abduction experiences during his DMT administrations. For me, having first had experiences without psychedelics, but I don't say that's better, absolutely not. And then having had experiences through darkrooms where light isolation produces psychedelic experiences, and then doing the shamanic research, I say all three are equally important and must be looked at equally. Likewise, before our exploration of darkrooms and shamanic medicine or entheogens or psychedelics, we had many UFO experiences with over 71 witnesses. And this is a subject that I think is important to look at, and I believe these two things should be explored. I think that the internal experience is as valid as the external experience, but that they relate to each other, and that very possibly the psychedelic experience prepares mankind into a higher neurocybernetic semantics that can enable interface with other neurocybernetic intelligences in this universe, which may be extraterrestrial or extratemporal or in the hadronic domain of this universe. So I think that this is a very important subject for the next period, and I wish more academic researchers from both sides would bring this together, because I think the internal UFO experience and the external UFO experience have a congruent consistency that is the key.